This video is part 2 on commenting practices. You may want to see the previous video on the 7 reasons not to comment your solution. But in this video, we are going to go over all the different areas and possible methods of the best commenting practices. There are several key areas where the commenting and documentation are found to be the most helpful. The first one has to do with the actual audience that you're writing the documentation for. Sometimes it's yourself, sometimes it's for other developers on your team or in the future, and sometimes it's actually for the end user. And if we start at the top down, there's actually some commenting that can be done with the table itself. The naming conventions are a method of documentation. And the default fields file that you can set up, if you've seen our certification course, we have a lesson there on how to set up the default fields so that you're using the proper names that you want, and then having just a general table template so that it is already commented, already set up the way you want it to be or the way you normally use it for making commenting easier. I'll give a few examples of each of these areas, and I made this little sample here not to show the way it must be, but just give you some ideas if you haven't already used these particular methods. So if we look at the actual table itself, the name itself can be a notation. So here we know this is general table template as opposed to a preferences table. But every solution that you have most likely is going to need a preferences section. And it always needs at least one table. So why not make that the general table template that is copied over and over for any other tables you need? In looking at this particular table, it has the default fields that I normally use in every single table. And these are the default fields that you can have set up to be whatever you want them to be in that lesson, in that other course. And usually there's a number field or a text field. So just having these here, I don't have to go through and rename any of these because they're already set up the way I want them to be with their options. And now if I need another table, I'm just going to copy this and paste it and change the name. And now I have all of those fields exactly the way I want them. And I didn't have to recreate the wheel, type all of these out again. They are all there. And if for some reason your solution doesn't need this table, then it's real easy to delete as opposed to creating this table even with just 7 fields. In the preferences table, most of my solutions that I use, I like to have a dynamic way of using the windows placement and the size that people can choose, which we have a YouTube video that we went over those. And so I typically have this preferences table in every solution, so why not have it as a part of a default table? The next area to document would be the fields. And again, naming conventions are a method of documentation. We also have the field comment space, which is there for a good reason. And then we have a timer, I guess you could do to see how much time does it really take to document it. So within any of these tables, when we look at each of these fields, here's the comment section. If there's nothing here, this is the primary key. And here it's nice to just say UUID because you can't see that here right away. So you would have to actually go into the options and see what was the calculation that I'm using. Oh, there it is. But if you use it in the comment, that saved you the same amount of time it would have taken to type that. So each of these are fairly standard, but notice there's still a comment there that can be helpful. And if the name of the field is too generic, like text field, and there's no comment here, you really have no idea what this particular field is used for. So just entering a comment can give you all kinds of information as opposed to if you didn't name it correctly. Now, sure, you could change this to bowling average, but Either way, you've got more information at a glance without digging further into where is this used, which layout is it used on, and just 3 words. So just 3 seconds probably. And maybe you weren't even aware that you can toggle this and see which ones have comments. So you can jump right here and say, we need this to be more descriptive. The next area is in the calculation dialogs, and there's a couple of ways that this can be done. We have the forward slashes, the 2 together. We also have the forward slash with an asterisk followed by another asterisk and a forward slash. But even the structure of the calculation dialog itself can be easier to document or see what is happening. The name shoot av, and then I use an _L for calculation fields. Some might use a C or some other naming convention. I use an L because that is the keyboard shortcut to make it a calculation. The double forward slash is just for that one particular line, whereas the other method, you can have multiple lines. You can go across the entire calculation dialog box if you like. And then the structure has to do with certain functions like the case statement. When it is typed in the type ahead like this, I find this hard to read quickly, as opposed to if I made this the test 1 and then my first result here and set up like this. It's much easier for me to see at a glance, even if we have a whole bunch of these different test cases. You can follow it much better than if it was all in one line. So this is a form of documentation. You're just helping the viewer understand what is happening. We have a whole lesson on how you can use these particular methods of commenting in conjunction with each other, or when you can put them in a line. Like, for example, could you type something here? Would that work? And just things like that in our certification course, whole lesson on that. But know that these are the fundamental ways of accomplishing this. And if we move this all the way to the end, all of this is actually inside the comment. So this could actually be a general field template for a calculation field. Chances are you might have one in your solution, and so it's already set up in the format that you want, so you don't have to keep changing this every time you type in a case statement, because it puts it in a different format. And if you don't need it, then of course it's very easy to delete. And also this little part right here, calculation result is, this I've missed many times in going very quickly, forgetting to change this right here. So it could be that right up here at the top, aside from maybe putting in a purpose, if this is a really elaborate calculation, just typing a note to myself, a little reminder, is this text or number, so that I won't forget to come down and change this if the need arises. So all this is already waiting for the next calculation that I do. And again, all I have to do is hit duplicate, and I've got everything in place. The next area for documentation is the layout section. And there's a lot of things you can do here, from tooltips and the blank fields, headings, objects, names of objects, some popovers, and even the folders of how you manage your layouts. And first off, it can be very helpful if all of your layouts are built around the same template. So in the solution, I'm only showing 2 here, but if we go into the layout section, I actually have a list template that is used and a form template that is used, and just a section for resources, things that I use often, where I can make sure I get the same item, the same style, and you have a lot you can do with the themes and the styles here, but sometimes we get in a hurry and we start making things and we're recreating the wheel over and over again instead of having this place. I need a form, then this is the general form that we're going to use. Now I have it where you have navigation on this side or navigation up here. And it just depends on the way this solution is supposed to go. But it's already set up the way I want it to be. Or before I start making a whole bunch of other layouts, I change just this form, which is either the colors or the theme or the style of the fonts, anything like that. Then I'm going to duplicate everything here. And you'll notice I have a lot of icons here, which you can go up to here and do show, and you have all of these choices that you can do. But here we have this T for the tooltip, and in each of these, you've got your options up here where you can name the actual object. So if we click on something here, somewhere we don't have a name of an object, so it's hard to jump to this particular layout unless you know the name or the name of the object. But here we have a tooltip, and so we can see it says numbers only please, because this is a number field, as well as over here in this section we have a placeholder text if it is blank to say number. So that is this little square right there, shows that there is placeholder text. So right at a glance I can see how helpful will this layout be for the end user, or what do I need to do to make this just a little bit better. And we even have some of those right up here. You can see tooltips are there. So on this form template, and we won't save that, you can see I'm documenting, I'm adding notes here that this is a number and an extra comment, because maybe this is called something else and they aren't sure what's supposed to go there. And same thing for the text field, and even sometimes the navigation. If they don't know what these pictures are, you can show them what that's supposed to be. So as we go into each of these layouts, there's typically a home screen that I use that has no fields on it. It's just kind of a navigational point, and we can jump around to maybe preferences. I want you to notice that the window doesn't change when I click on these different things. Everything stays the same, and that's very clean. It's very easy on the eyes, and it helps the user understand how to use it without even adding a lot of comments. So it's kind of like subliminally commenting things by setting up your layout in the background for best use practice. And we also have the manage layouts where you can add some folders, and here you have all of the admin ones are in here. So even if I didn't know what a particular layout was, if it was in a folder, that gives me a clue of what it's supposed to do. And it also helps to see I've got script triggers on all of these. So I know that something is going to happen on those to make sure it is set up properly. So anytime I set up a layout, I know because of the window sizing, there's certain things I want to track when I go into the layout and when I leave the layout, and that's on every single layout in my solution. So why not put that already in a generic template? So all the script triggers are there, tooltips, everything is there, navigation. Now I'm just going to be changing a couple of fields. Another area to document well is scripts, and this is kind of what we may think of initially when commenting, and you just jump right to scripts. But don't forget all these other areas that can really make a difference in maintaining a healthy solution. But in scripts, we have naming conventions again. There's two methods of adding a specific comment, which we'll demonstrate. And all of this helps modularize and systematize your script writing experience for streamlining the productivity and just making it all faster. And you can replicate things easier, and just type it in plain speech first for confirmation before you start adding all kinds of things in there and commit to a certain way. If you put in all the comments first, just in English, we got to do this, and then we got to check for this. We got an error trap here. We have to go here. Then you can spot the logic problems before you have to replace fields and replace logic because you had the wrong logic in place. So a predetermined general template will save you a ton of time in commenting as well. And there's also folders. So if we take a look at our script workspace, right at the top, I have a general script template. And depending on how you size your screen, or if you don't have some of these things on, then it may determine how large you want these to be. It just looks a little better, but you can of course shrink it all the way down to whatever you like. And you can see we've used the # initially as our commenting structure, but you can also use the double space, but you can't type the double space in. That doesn't work. You actually have to hit the command / and it disables the particular line. So some think of it as a comment. It's actually disabling this so it's not used, and then you just hit command / again, or control /. So those are the two ways of creating comments. Now, most scripts, you have a purpose and you want to know when it was created, who the author was, when modifications were made, and the context, when and where is this running. I love to start all scripts with variables. So I have as many variables declared up here as I can, and then I break everything down into sections. And I typically like to use an exit script with a null variable there. So every script has these pieces, and now I can simply jump in here and start typing anything that I want. And there's my purpose. There it is done, and only took a few seconds. So now when we look through all of these scripts, because they were based on that same template, it all tells me what I need to know. There's the variables. Sometimes I don't need a particular one, so you can either delete it or just disable it. So any new script that I want to come right up here and do Command D, name it, put in why I'm making this, today's date, anything that's there, and I'm ready to just start typing in the logic as I see fit. And it's already structured nicely. And of course, we also have these folders. You want to add folders, anything that you can do to help assist in the meaning of certain scripts is very, very helpful, or just saying, oh, I want those all there or not. And your naming conventions may make a difference. Having all of these start with trigger, I know exactly what that is used for. Maybe you have ones that say navigation or nav. Some people will put it at the end because we have this search here. Now I can just type that in and all the script trigger ones come up, whether it's in the front or the back. So naming them is very, very helpful. That also includes if for some reason there are parameters that you're going to use. If you put those in the name, then anyone calling that script, maybe even you later on, will know, oh, I've got to have these parameters. And so that's going to be a part of the declaring the variables. You're going to have to get those parameters and go through that process. Next up is the relationship graph. Again, we have naming conventions. There's text you can use. There's color, grouping, and alignment. All of those can be used in conjunction to make all of this look nicer and easier to find. And generally, I will use the anchor buoy system. So instead of just connecting this and leaving it just like that and making another one for some reason, maybe this one's connected to itself, and maybe we make another one and this one's over here with a different field. Now when you go in, you don't know which one you're looking at, as opposed to doing the anchor buoy system of annotating what that relationship really is. And now at a glance, either here, or if for some reason I'm going to be on a form and I need to add a field, so we'll just option drag this over here. And now I want to pick one. Is it preferences 1, 3? Which one is it? This makes it very clear to know this is exactly the one that I want. You also have the alignment. If you have all the source tables here and everything flowing this way. That gives structure. That's a form of documentation. And if you put it over here, then is it in the first one or the second one? So just using these tools down here just to make sure if I want to line these up, I'm going to line the left edges, and maybe you want them all to be the exact same size. All of these tools can be very helpful at documenting this. You may even want to use something like this to group all of a certain kind into one category and type a whole bunch of notes here. You can just type and type and type and change the color, change the font. Maybe you want it to be green now and visually see them in a different light for easier reference later. One often missed area is the custom function area. And we love custom functions, and you have naming conventions. You have the same kind of annotating or commenting tools as you do with the calculation dialog box, as well as the structure and spacing. So looking at the custom functions here, I have several that are here already, and the top one is a template, so that if I want to make one, I'm just going to duplicate this template that I have. And we start with a name, which is easy to change, and it has to have a parameter of some kind. It's usually a text or number, but you can edit that as needed. And then we have the comment section, just like in the calculation dialog box. And here I did the same thing with the case statement, because in custom functions, you actually don't have the type ahead. It doesn't even give you those parameters. So having this already in place, then I can come in and double click and make any changes that I need to very quickly without retyping all of this again, and have everything set up to document quickly on the fly and have the best experience. I also have in my basic solution, which I like to call the best of the best, just some custom functions that I use over and over again. So that could be the phone format, could be a way of handling parameters or checking if an email is valid. If you find there are certain things you're doing all the time, put them in your base table, your base file, and then every time I replicate this file, all of these custom functions are right there. So when I'm ready for a new custom function, I just duplicate it and everything is there, change the name, and I am all ready to go with half of the commenting already done. You may have known about the calculation dialog and the custom functions, but what about the data viewer? There are many times when adding some comments inside a watched area can be very helpful. We have the same thing for structure and spacing. If we just copy everything here, then when we go into our data viewer, we want to add something to a watch. We've got everything set up in place so we can easily add something in and possibly add some notes if it's something you're going to watch frequently. And once you have it set up, it is very easy to just duplicate and start it all over again. You'll notice that it adds a lot of different things in there, but if you just Command A, Command C, Command A, Command V, you've got it all back where you want it, and it's ready for best use. And lastly, you have the database file itself. That is a general template. You have all of the other areas set up the way that it will streamline your productivity the best. Then why not just do a save copy as your newest solution? And now you have all of those things in place all together, untainted, other than what we did in demonstrating this. But if you have your set standard, then everything is all set and ready to go. You are out of the gate. You're already made your first few laps. And those are some of the best commenting or documenting practices from years of trial and error and not commenting and having regrets. I hope you enjoyed this video. You can comment below on any of your favorite best commenting practices, be sure to watch the previous video or visit us at productivecomputinguniversity.com. Like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.